I watched my sister collapse in the hospital waiting room, her hand dramatically pressed to her forehead, and felt absolutely nothing. The nurses rushed to her side immediately, just like they always did. Just like our parents always did. Just like everyone always did when Miranda decided she needed attention. She's hyperventilating, my mother shrieked, dropping to her knees beside Miranda's prone form. Someone help her! My baby needs help! I sat in my plastic chair, my left arm cradled against my chest. The bone I was absolutely certain was broken, sending white-hot spikes of agony through my entire body with every breath. I'd been sitting here for 45 minutes. We'd arrived together. Well, I'd driven us here, one-handed, while Miranda sobbed in the passenger seat about her twisted ankle. The ankle she'd hurt while drunk at a party, the party she'd snuck out to attend, the party our parents didn't even know about because at 23 Miranda could do no wrong. I was 25 and I couldn't do anything right. Miss? A nurse finally approached me, her eyes still darting back to the scene Miranda was creating. Are you here with... I have a broken arm, I said quietly, my voice steady despite the pain that was making my vision blur at the edges. I fell down the stairs at home 3 hours ago. I think the bone might have punctured through. There's a lot of swelling and... Miranda, baby, breathe! My mother's voice cut through my explanation like a knife. The nurse's attention snapped away from me entirely. I'm sorry, one moment, she said, already moving toward my sister. I sat back in my chair and felt something inside me crack that had nothing to do with my arm. This wasn't new. This was a pattern 25 years in the making. The first time I truly understood that I would always come second was when I was 7 years old. Miranda was 5, and we were both sick with the flu. I'd thrown up 12 times that day. I'd counted the way children do when they're trying to make sense of suffering. I was so dehydrated I couldn't cry anymore, just dry heaved into a bucket beside my bed while my mother sat in Miranda's room reading her stories. Mom needs to take care of your sister, my father had said, appearing in my doorway for exactly 30 seconds. She's more delicate than you. You're tough. You'll be fine. Tough. At 7 years old, that had almost sounded like a compliment. I'd tried to be proud of it, even as I lay there alone, shivering and miserable. By the time I was 10, I understood. Tough didn't mean strong. It meant disposable. It meant your needs didn't matter because you wouldn't break the way Miranda would. Except Miranda never broke. She had paper cuts and the house stopped. She had a headache, and suddenly, we were at the emergency room. She had a bad day, and family dinner became about comforting her, validating her, ensuring she knew she was loved. I had pneumonia at 12, and my mother accused me of exaggerating for attention because Miranda had a piano recital that weekend. I'd walked onto the stage to watch my sister play, my fever so high I could barely see straight, and no one noticed. They were too busy watching Miranda. The broken wrist when I was 14, I'd actually fallen off the jungle gym at school. Not trying to do anything dangerous, just existing. The school nurse had been concerned enough to call my parents. My mother had sighed into the phone. Can it wait? Miranda has her SAT prep course. I'd taken the bus to the hospital alone. Set it myself with a YouTube video and a ruler I'd bought at the dollar store. It had healed crooked. I still couldn't make a proper fist with that hand. When I was 16, I'd won a full scholarship to study engineering at MIT. Full ride. Everything paid for. It was the proudest moment of my life. That's nice, honey, my mother had said, barely looking up from her phone. Miranda, did you see that the dress you wanted for prom is on sale? My father had patted my shoulder once. MIT, huh? That's in Boston. That's far. You sure you don't want to stay closer to home? Go to state like Miranda's planning to? I'd gone to MIT. I'd learned to exist in a world where I mattered, even if it was only to myself. Now, sitting in this emergency room with my arms screaming and my sister performing for an audience that would always choose her, something crystallized in my mind with perfect cold clarity. I was done. The emergency room doctor finally saw me 2 hours later. My arm was broken in 3 places. I'd done nerve damage by waiting so long. They had to do surgery. My parents stayed with Miranda in her room. She'd been given a bed for observation because of her panic attack. I went into surgery alone. I woke up alone. I was discharged the next morning, took an Uber home, and found the house empty. There was a note on the kitchen counter in my mother's handwriting. Took Miranda to get brunch to cheer her up after her scary night. There's cereal in the pantry. Mom. I stood in that empty kitchen, my arm in a cast, my body exhausted, my soul finally completely finished with these people, and I made a decision. I would never tell them anything about my life again. Not where I was going, not what I was doing, not when I needed help, not when I was in pain, not when I was in danger, nothing. They'd made their choice about which daughter mattered. I'd make my choice too. I walked upstairs, went into my room, and started planning my disappearance. The thing about being the forgotten child is that you learn to be resourceful. You learn to solve your own problems because no one is coming to save you. You learn to be silent, to be invisible, to take up as little space as possible. Those skills I was about to discover were incredibly valuable. I had 1 semester left at MIT. I'd been working 3 part-time jobs to cover expenses my scholarship didn't include, because my parents had made it clear that their money went to Miranda's state school tuition, her sorority fees, her new car. I was on my own, but I'd made connections. I'd impressed professors. I'd worked on research projects that caught the attention of people who actually valued competence over performance. One of those people was Dr. Catherine Hayes, a venture capitalist who occasionally lectured at MIT. She specialized in funding women in STEM, particularly those from difficult backgrounds. She'd pulled me aside after class once, 3 months before the emergency room incident. "You have something," she'd said, her sharp blue eyes studying me. "A hunger, a precision. The students who have everything handed to them never develop that edge. I'd like to stay in touch." She'd given me her card. I'd tucked it away, not sure what to do with it. Now, in my childhood bedroom with my broken arm and my broken family, I pulled out that card and sent an email. Dr. Hayes responded within an hour. We met for coffee the following week. I told her everything, not emotionally, not looking for pity, just stating facts. The pattern of neglect, the emergency room, the choice I'd made to cut them out of my narrative entirely. She'd listened, her expression unreadable until I finished. "I have a granddaughter your age," she finally said. "She died 3 years ago, car accident. She was brilliant like you. Driven. And her parents, my daughter and her husband, they never saw her. They were too busy with her younger brother who was special, needed more attention, needed more support." She paused. "He was fine, just spoiled. My granddaughter died driving herself to the hospital with appendicitis because she didn't want to bother anyone. She didn't make it." The coffee shop seemed to go very quiet. "I can't get her back," Dr. Hayes continued. "But I can make damn sure that what happened to her doesn't keep happening to other brilliant young women who've been taught their lives matter less." She leaned forward. I'm going to invest in you. Not your idea, though if you have one, I'm listening. I'm investing in you. Your education, your living expenses, your future. And in return, when you're successful, and you will be, you'll do the same for someone else." I'd stared at her, unable to speak. "I'm also going to make sure your family never knows," she added. "That's part of the plan. They don't get to benefit from your success. They don't get to take credit. They don't get to suddenly care once you're valuable. Agreed?" I'd agreed. That was 4 years ago. In those 4 years, I'd finished my degree, started a company with 2 classmates, developing adaptive AI software for medical diagnostics. Dr. Hayes had funded us, mentored us, connected us with every important person she knew. Our software had been acquired by a major tech company for $47 million. My cut was $18 million. I was 29 years old, a Tainathas, multimillionaire, and my family had no idea. They thought I was still working some low-level tech job in Boston. I let them think that. The few times we spoke, awkward, obligatory phone calls on holidays, I kept my answers vague. "Oh, work is fine. Same old stuff." Miranda, meanwhile, had posted every detail of her life on social media. Her engagement to a law student from a good family, her job at a nonprofit, part-time, mostly for appearances, her apartment that our parents helped pay for, her perfect life. I watched it all from a distance, silent and invisible the way I'd always been. And then, one random Tuesday in March, my phone rang. It was my mother. "Emma," her voice was bright, artificial. "Honey, how are you? We never hear from you anymore." I'm fine, I said, my tone neutral. What's going on? Well, I wanted to let you know about Miranda's wedding. It's going to be in June at the country club. We're so excited. And we want you to be there, of course. Your family. Family. The word felt like a joke. We were hoping you could contribute to the wedding costs, my mother continued, her voice taking on that wheedling tone I remembered from childhood. Your father and I are covering most of it, but it's quite expensive, and we thought since you have that job in Boston, maybe you could help out. Even 5,000 would be helpful. $5,000. For a wedding. For Miranda, who'd never once asked if I needed anything. For parents who'd let me go into surgery alone. I'll think about it, I said. Oh, Emma, don't be difficult, my mother sighed. This is your sister's special day. Surely you can. I said I'll think about it. I have to go. I hung up. I did think about it. For about 30 seconds. Then I blocked their numbers. Dr. Hayes called me that evening. I heard your mother's been trying to reach me, she said. Someone gave her my number, probably found it through your MIT connections. She wanted to know if I could talk some sense into you about contributing to your sister's wedding. What did you tell her? I told her I had no idea what she was talking about. As far as I'm concerned, you and I are professional acquaintances, nothing more. There was a smile in her voice. Though I did mention that I'd heard through the grapevine that you'd done quite well for yourself. Thought you should know that information is out there now. Thank you, I said, understanding what she'd done. Planted a seed. Let my mother wonder. You know they'll come looking eventually, Dr. Hayes said. Let them. They did come looking. 3 months later, right after Miranda's wedding, a wedding I did not attend, did not contribute to, and did not acknowledge, my father showed up at my apartment in San Francisco. I'd moved there 6 months earlier, bought a place in Pacific Heights with a view of the Golden Gate Bridge. It was beautiful, expensive, and mine. My doorman called up, Miss Thornton, there's a gentleman here claiming to be your father. Send him away, I said. He's quite insistent. Then call the police. There was a pause. Are you sure? I'm sure. My father left. He tried again the next day, and the day after that. On the 4th day, my mother came with him. I watched them on my building's security camera, standing in the lobby, arguing with the doorman. My mother was crying. My father looked angry. I felt nothing. That's when they started trying to find out about my finances. They hired a private investigator. I found out because the PI was sloppy and my attorney caught them. We sent a cease and desist. Then Miranda called, leaving me a voicemail. Her voice was tearful. Emma, please call me back. I don't understand why you're being like this. We're family. Whatever I did, I'm sorry. Please, Mom and Dad are so worried. They heard you have money now and they just want to make sure you're okay. Please call. I deleted the voicemail, but they didn't stop. They created social media accounts to try to reach me. They contacted my old MIT professors. They showed up at the building where my old startup had been located before the acquisition. They were hunting me. Not because they missed me. Not because they loved me. Because they'd finally realized I had value. And they wanted a piece of it. That's when I decided it was time for them to understand exactly what they'd lost. I hired a publicist and agreed to do an interview with a major tech magazine. The kind of profile piece that successful young entrepreneurs do. The kind that gets shared widely. The article came out on a Tuesday. Emma Thornton, the quiet genius who revolutionized medical AI. It detailed my journey. My MIT scholarship, my startup, the acquisition, my current net worth, estimated at $25 million. My new company, which was developing even more groundbreaking technology. It also mentioned in one carefully worded paragraph that I'd done it all without family support as an example of pure determination and self-made success. The article went viral. By Wednesday, I had 3,000 new followers on social media. By Thursday, I was trending on Twitter. By Friday, my phone was flooded with messages from my family. I didn't read them, but my attorney did. She summarized lots of apologies, lots of, "We always believed in you," lots of asking for a chance to reconnect, and she paused. Several messages from your sister mentioning that she and her husband are having financial difficulties and could really use some help. Block them all, I said. Already done. But they weren't finished. They showed up at my office the following Monday. All three of them, my mother, my father, and Miranda. Security stopped them in the lobby. Please, my mother was saying, loud enough that I could hear her through my office door as I watched on the security monitor. Please, we just need to talk to her. We're her family. She's being unreasonable. We love her. We've always loved her. My father looked uncomfortable. Miranda was crying again, those same calculated tears I'd seen my entire life. I walked down to the lobby. My assistant tried to stop me, but I shook my head. It's fine. Let me handle this. They saw me coming and rushed forward. Security stepped between us. Emma, my mother reached for me. Baby, please. Don't call me that, I said calmly. You don't get to call me that. Honey, we know you're upset, my father tried. We know we weren't perfect parents. But we did our best, and we're so proud of you now. We want to be part of your life, part of your success. Part of my success, I repeated. Interesting choice of words. Emma, please, Miranda sobbed. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. I never meant. Do you know what happened 4 years ago? I interrupted, my voice cutting through her tears. The night you twisted your ankle at that party? They all stared at me. I had a broken arm, broken in 3 places. I'd fallen down the stairs at home. I drove us to the emergency room one-handed while you cried about your ankle. And then I sat in the waiting room for 2 hours while they fussed over you. I went into surgery alone. I woke up alone. I was discharged alone. And when I got home, you'd all gone out to brunch because Miranda needed cheering up. My mother's face went pale. Emma, I didn't know it was that serious. You didn't ask, I said. You never asked. Not then, not ever. Do you know how many times I needed something and you weren't there? Do you know how many emergencies I had that you ignored? That's not fair, my father said. Miranda needed everything, I said. And I needed nothing. That was the story you told yourselves. That was the family you built, and I accepted it. I adapted. I learned to need nothing from you, and that's exactly what I'm giving you now. Nothing. We're your family, my mother whispered. No, I said, you're people I used to know. People who made it very clear that I was an inconvenience unless I was useful, and now I'm useful and suddenly you care. But here's the thing, I don't need you anymore. I never actually did. I just thought I did because you're supposed to need your parents. You're supposed to need your family. But I survived without you. I thrived without you. And I'm going to continue to thrive without you. Emma, please, Miranda tried again. I love you. You're my sister. When? I asked. When did you love me? When you took my birthday money because you wanted a new outfit? When you borrowed my car and returned it on empty? When you got into your top choice college and I had to take out loans while mom and dad paid for everything for you? When you got engaged and expected me to be thrilled for you, even though you never once asked about my life? I shook my head. You don't love me. You love what I can do for you, and I'm done being useful to people who don't see me as human. This is because of money, my father said, his voice hardening. You've changed. You've become rich, I supplied. Successful, independent. Yes, I have, and you hate that, don't you? You hate that I don't need you, that I did this without you, that you can't take credit for any of it. That's not true, my mother said. We always supported you. You let me go into surgery alone, I said quietly. That's all you need to know about how you supported me. That's the truth of this family. And I'm done pretending it's anything else. I turned to go. We'll tell everyone what you're really like, my father called after me. We'll tell them you abandoned your family. You cut off your own parents. I stopped and looked back at him. Go ahead. Tell them. Tell them how you neglected one daughter her entire life because you were too busy spoiling the other. Tell them how you ignored her medical emergencies. Tell them how you only wanted a relationship once she had money. Please, tell everyone. I have lawyers and publicists who would love to help me tell my side too. I walked away and didn't look back. They tried, of course. They gave interviews to local papers. "Millionaire tech mogul abandons family," read one headline. But my team was ready. We released statements, shared records, told the whole story. Public opinion turned fast. By the end of the week, there were think pieces about parental favoritism, about golden children and scapegoats, about families who only show up when there's money involved. My parents became the villains of the narrative. Miranda became the symbol of everything wrong with entitled siblings. They backed off after that, disappeared from public view. I heard through mutual connections that my father had to take early retirement because of the scandal, that my mother had lost most of her social circle, that Miranda's marriage was struggling because her husband's family didn't want to be associated with the controversy. I felt nothing about any of it. 2 years later, I got an email from Miranda. Just one line. "I'm sorry, you were right about everything." I didn't respond. 6 months after that, my mother tried one more time. A handwritten letter, delivered through my attorney, begging for forgiveness, explaining that she'd been raised by narcissists herself, that she'd repeated their patterns without realizing it, that she was in therapy now, that she understood what she'd done to me. "I can't undo the past," she wrote. "But I want you to know that I see you now. I see what I missed. I see the daughter I had and ignored. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." I read the letter 3 times. Then I filed it away and went on with my life. Maybe someday I'll respond. Maybe someday I'll be ready to have that conversation. But not today. Not while the memories are still fresh. Not while I can still feel the echo of that broken arm, that empty hospital room, that endless pattern of being invisible. Not while I'm still building the life they told me I couldn't have. Because that's the thing they never understood. I didn't cut them off because I was cruel. I cut them off because I was finally, after 25 years, choosing myself, and I've never been happier. My company is worth over $100 million now. We've developed diagnostic tools that save lives every day. I've invested in 12 other startups run by women, helping them avoid the struggles I faced. I've donated millions to causes I care about. I've built a life that matters, that has meaning, that makes a difference. And I did it all without them. That's not revenge. That's revenge. That's not cruelty. That's justice. 3 months ago, I got a call from a hospital in my hometown. My father had a heart attack. He was asking for me. I thought about it for a long time. Thought about the 7-year-old girl throwing up alone, the 12-year-old with pneumonia, the 16-year-old getting on a bus with a broken wrist, the 25-year-old going into surgery without anyone who loved her. I thought about all the times they chose her emergency over mine, and I realized I didn't owe them this. "I'm sorry," I told the nurse. "I think you have the wrong number. I don't know anyone by that name." I hung up. He survived. I heard through the grapevine that he was fine, that he'd had a stent put in, that he was recovering. I felt the same thing I'd felt in that emergency room 8 years ago, watching my sister perform for an audience. Nothing. Last week, I got another email, this one from my sister. "I'm pregnant," it read. "It's a girl, and I'm terrified I'm going to do to her what Mom and Dad did to you. I don't know how to be different. I don't know how to be better. I don't even know if you'll read this. But if you do, maybe someday you could tell me how you survived us, how you became so strong, how you learned to not need anyone." I stared at that email for 3 days. On the 4th day, I wrote back, "You don't learn to not need anyone," I wrote. "You learn to need the right people, people who see you, people who show up, people who choose you, not because you're useful or because you're quiet or because you're easy, but because you're you. Find those people, be one of those people. Don't be what they were. That's how you survive." She wrote back immediately. "Will you help me? Will you teach me?" I thought about it for a long time. Finally, I wrote, "Maybe, but not now. Not yet. I'm still healing from everything they broke. Maybe in a few years, when your daughter is old enough to understand, you can tell her about her Aunt Emma, the one who learned to save herself, And maybe that story will help her learn to save herself too, if she ever needs to. I'll wait, she replied, however long it takes. I don't know if I'll ever be ready. I don't know if I'll ever fully forgive them, or let them back in, or allow myself to be vulnerable to the people who hurt me so deeply for so long. But I know this. I survived. I survived being invisible. I survived being forgotten. I survived being told over and over that someone else's emergency was always more important than mine. And when I had my own emergencies, real ones, ones that mattered, ones that shaped who I became, I didn't tell them, not because I wanted to punish them, but because I'd finally learned that they weren't capable of showing up for me the way I needed. So I found people who were. Dr. Hayes, who saw me when no one else did, my business partners who valued my mind and my work, my friends chosen carefully who showed up when I needed them. My therapist who helped me understand that cutting out toxic family wasn't cruelty, it was self-preservation. I built a new family, one that chose me back. And I built a life that was mine, not theirs. Mine, they chose her emergency over mine again and again for 25 years. So when I had my own emergencies, when I was building my company and failing and trying again, when I was navigating the tech world as a young woman, when I was learning to be successful without becoming like them, when I was figuring out who I was beyond their neglect, I never told them. They don't get those stories. They don't get to know about the late nights and the hard choices and the moments of doubt and the eventual triumph. They don't get to know me, not anymore. And honestly, that's not my loss. It's theirs. I'm 33 now. I'm successful beyond anything I imagined as that 7-year-old throwing up alone, as that 16-year-old taking the bus to the hospital, as that 25-year-old going into surgery without a hand to hold. I'm happy. Genuinely, deeply happy. I have people who love me, people who see me, people who would never, ever choose someone else's emergency over mine. And if I ever have children of my own, I'll make sure they know this. You matter. Your pain matters, your needs matter, and anyone who tells you otherwise doesn't deserve a place in your life, no matter who they are. Because that's the lesson they taught me, even though they didn't mean to. Some people will never see you, no matter how bright you shine. And the only emergency that truly matters is the one where you finally choose yourself. I had that emergency 8 years ago, sitting in a hospital waiting room with a broken arm and a broken heart, and I chose myself. I never told them when I had my own emergencies after that. The scary ones, the important ones, the life-changing ones, because they'd already shown me who they were, and I'd finally learned to believe them.